Welcome to the Idiot's Guide. I'm Mackie Hall. Now, what do the USA Network, A&E Network, and MTV all have in common? Well, aside from being media networks, they all use negative space, that empty space between shapes, to make their logos tick. And the first two do it with one typeface. This is such an easy path to building compelling logos and art. All you need is the right type, a little know-how, and you are ready to go. So let's take you through the tactic and then master the technique. First, let's look at the type. You need a simple, bold sans serif to make this technique work. Scripts or serif types like Times New Roman contain too much information and too many curves to make this work. We need simple to read letters. Good off-the-shelf fonts include Futura Standard Bold or Gill Sans Extra Bold. Now, for this piece, we're going to be using Piece Sans. That being said, look around and find that bold type that works for you and your purpose. Next, let's look at the letters. But before I do, let's talk about the defining parts that make each letter work. Every letter has a part or side that defines it. Without that, that letter simply can't be told apart from other letters. To give you a bit more understanding, let's take a look at the letters A, B, and C. If you understand these, you've got enough information to understand all the rest of the letters. Using this example right here, note that the letter A can be defined by either side, as long as it's got that pyramid shape in the middle. Now let's check out the letter B. Note that the defining parts of this letter are on the right side. If we blank out the left, we can still tell that it is a B. If we take out the right, no can do. Ditto for the letter C. We can take out the left side because the right side, those simple curves, especially inside the C, are what defines it. Now, can these letters be made into a negative space logo? Absolutely. Why? Because the A can be defined on any side, while the B and the C are defined on the right side. No overlap, no problem. Remember, as long as there's no defining area conflict, this technique works perfectly. All right, now that we've got that straight, let's jump on over to Illustrator and master the technique. Here's what we're first building. Next, we'll be building this. We're going to level our logo up by adding some rectangles to make our shape even more descriptive. Let's go. First thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and create a new file. Our new file will have a width of 1,000 points, a height of 1,000 points. If we scroll down, you'll notice it is in the RGB color mode. The reason we have it set in that color mode is we are going to use it for screen display only. No more changes need to be made. Let's go ahead and create. Okay, before we get started, I want to mention that our workspace is the Essentials Classic workspace. If you want to switch on over to it, all you need to do is go to the top right-hand corner of your screen, click on Switch Workspace, and select Essentials Classic. Next thing I want to mention is we are using Smart Guides to switch on over to Smart Guides. All you need to do is go to View, Smart Guides, or select Control U. One more thing worth mentioning is that we are going to be using the bottom center of our page to highlight key command recommendations, hotkeys, and tips and tricks. With that in mind, we're building this piece on a PC, and with that, we'll be making reference to the Control key. If you're using a Mac or any Apple device, remember that you will be using the Command key instead. Again, Command equals Control. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our type tool, and let's go ahead and click on over anywhere in the middle of our artboard. Once that's set, we can see in the top right-hand corner of what we're going to build. Let's go ahead and write the letters A, C, E. Once we've written those letters, let's go ahead and select all of our type. We can do it a couple of different ways. We can triple click on our type, or of course we can select Control A. Both accomplish the same thing of selecting all of our type. Once we've got that set, let's go ahead and select a full-bodied sans serif. This effect works best with a full-bodied sans serif. The reason is because they're the most simple and self-descriptive typefaces. The way we do that is we can either go to our top bar and select our character and enter that typeface, or of course we can open up our type window. We can do that two different ways. We can go to our right toolbar and select our character tool right here. Or of course, what we can do is we can go to Window, Type, Character, or Control T. Now that we've got that open, let's go ahead and select our typeface. The typeface we're going to be using today is Peace Sans. If you don't have that on your machine, that's perfectly fine. It's available for free download from fontsquirrel.com. Check out the link below and you're good to go. Otherwise, you can always go to fontsquirrel.com and do a simple search for Peace. Let's get started. Again, all we're doing is clicking in our character window. All right, let's hit enter. Notice that it autofills straight away and notice that the letters are now Peace. All right, once we've got that done, let's go ahead and change our type size from 12 point over to 200 points. We can do that again on our top bar or in our character window. I'm going to select our character window. I'll select it all, write in 200, select enter. There you go with that. Now that we've got our type set, let's go ahead and grab our selection tool and click on that. Notice that we've got the letters that we want to use, so we won't need to be editing our letters anymore. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to convert our letters to an editable shape instead of editable type. It's really easy to make that conversion. We've got two ways to do it. The first way is to right-click on our type and select Create Outlines. Alternatively, you can hit Shift-Control-L. Let's go. Once we've converted our type to shapes, it's easily highlighted by going to Outlines. Now you can do that two different ways. You can go to View, Outline, or of course Control-Y. Notice straight away with our type selected that you can see it's no longer editable as type, but it is editable as a shape. That's exactly what we want. Let's exit Outlines. All right, the next thing we want to do, we want to ungroup our type shapes. This is super easy to do. Again, all you need to do is go up to Object, Ungroup, or Shift-Control-G. You can also do it by selecting your shapes, right-clicking on them, and selecting Ungroup. Once you've ungrouped them, all you need to do is deselect your shape and then select any of the individual shapes that you want to move or edit, and you're ready to go. In this case, what we want to do is we want to grab our C and our E and move them in closer to the A. The reason we do that is we want to have each of the characters help define the other. So we're going to do that by overlapping. Piece of cake. Let's go ahead and select the C. And we can either drag our C over into the A, or of course we can just arrow it on over. In this case, we're going to go ahead and arrow it on over. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be holding down the Shift key and then repeatedly pressing my left directional key. Let's do it. That looks good right there. Notice that when we hold down the Shift key, we move elements over in 10-point increments as opposed to 1-point increments. All right, let's deselect the C and click on the E. Again, we'll hold our Shift key and let's arrow it on over into the C. That looks pretty good right there. That's exactly what we want. Let's deselect our shape and then let's go to Outlines and see what it looks like. That is exactly what we're looking for. As the shapes are overlapping, what we're going to want to do is get rid of any of the excess shapes and then use the shape information available to help define all the interacting shapes. Sounds pretty confusing, but it is not. Let's go ahead and take the steps. First, what we're going to do is with our selection tool still on, we're going to drag across our shapes just like that. Next, we're going to zoom in. We can do it a couple different ways. The easiest way to do it is to press Control plus with our object selected, and notice that we will zoom right into our shapes. That's perfect right there. Now that we've got that, let's talk tactics here. What I always like to do when I'm building out my shapes is I like to stagger my shapes. I like to make my shapes look like they're stacked on top of each other. So I want to make my A the most prominent shape, and then next the C and next the E. It makes them more readable that way. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and combine our shapes so that we've got 3 individual shapes that we're working with. How do we do that? This is where the Shape Builder tool comes in. I love this tool. It's absolutely one of my favorites, especially when it comes to simplifying shapes. What we're going to do is we'll select our shape builder tool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag over the intersecting parts of each shape to make them a single unified shape. Check out what I mean. First thing we're going to do is we are going to create the A shape. We're going to do that by clicking into the A and then dragging across into that overlapping C shape, just like that. That's perfect right there. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing with the C. We're going to click on the top right of the C, drag into the C body. We can release, and then let's do the same thing with the bottom right of the C. Again, dragging into the C body, just like that. Now that we've got that, we've got the A, C, and E as unique shapes. Now we've got an interesting thing happening, and let me go ahead and demonstrate. I'm going to deselect my shape really quickly, and then let's go ahead and escape outlines. Now you can see our shapes right there, and they're still tripping over each other. Notice that the inside of the C is still white. So if I wanted to segregate my C, again, use the C as that negative space that we've been talking about, what I can do is I can select my C, and then let's go ahead and change the color to white. All I need to do is double click on my fill, and let's change our fill all the way to white. Let's click OK. Let's go ahead and deselect our C. Now notice you can't tell what the C is because the most important part of the C is the inside of it, that right inside of it. It's not just the right end, but the right inside of it. So what are we going to do there? Well, we're going to make that inside part of the C part of the E. Check it out and look what happens. Let's go ahead and select our C first of all. And let's go ahead and change our fill back to black so we're back at our original look. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to select all of our shapes. Once again, we'll drag across it just like that. Let's go back to outlines. And this time around, we're going to drag from the E into the hollow part of the C. Check it out. Let's grab our shape builder tool. Click on our E and let's drag across into the C just like that. Now that that's done, we've got still 3 distinct shapes. However, the hollow part of the C is now part of the E. Let's escape outlines and let's keep playing with it. Let's go ahead and grab our selection tool and deselect our shapes just like that. And notice that it's just a blob. However, right now, because the A, C, and E are distinct shapes, we can select the C or the A or the E for that matter and change the color. In this case, let's go ahead and select the C. Let's go ahead and change the color to white. We'll double click on our fill once again. Let's change that fill to white just like that. Let's click OK. And let's go ahead and deselect. Notice straight away that our A, C, and E are completely self-describing. Doesn't matter if the E isn't that shape. We're not recognizing the E as part of that shape. Again, we're looking at the defining part of the E, which is the right side of it. So if we zoom out, let's go ahead and bring the entire artboard into view. You can see that that's exactly what we're looking for. That's a very functional logo right there if we wanted to make it. If you guys can't read it, I think you can. It's ACE or ACE. Last thing we want to do here with this particular shape is with our selection tool still selected, let's go ahead and drag across our shape just like that. Let's go ahead and group it. We can right click on it and select group. Of course, we can select object group or Control G as well. Now, one more thing worth mentioning here is we don't need that C anymore because that is negative space. So we can always delete it. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and do that process right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on my shape. Let's select ungroup. Let's click off of our shape. Let's click on the C. And why not? Let's go ahead and delete it. See what happens to our shape. Remember, it's 3 distinct shapes. So we delete the C. Nothing happens. It's still negative space. Once again, let's go ahead and drag across our entire shape set. Let's right click on it. Let's select group, or of course, Control G or object group. Last thing we're going to do with this bit right here is let's go ahead and center it horizontally. And from there, let's move it a little bit higher on our artboard. The reason why is I want to show you a different way to do this piece. This time around, we're going to be using rectangles. And this is method 2. Let's go ahead and grab our type tool. Let's click anywhere on our artboard beneath our original ACE, and let's write ACE again. This time around, we're going to grab our selection tool. You know the steps from here. Let's go ahead and right click on it. Select Create Outlines. Let's ungroup our shape. And then let's click off of our shapes. Once we've got that set, let's go ahead and move our C into place. We're going to select it, hold our Shift key, we'll arrow it into the A just like that. And then let's go ahead and do the same thing with the E. We're going to deselect our C, we'll click on our E, hold our Shift key, and arrow it into the C just like that. Once we're done there, let's go ahead and select all of our shapes, go to Outlines, and let's go ahead and zoom in. That looks pretty good right there. Before we get started though, let's do something else. Let's deselect our shapes right here. Now, if you look at our original ACE artwork, the A, C, and E are still pretty descriptive, but they're not as highly descriptive as they could be. This logo works for sure, but what if you wanted the letter shapes to be even more descriptive perhaps? Well, here is a tool. This time around, we're going to add rectangles to help us along. Let's do it. First thing we're going to do once again is let's go ahead and select all of our shapes just like that. And we're going to take advantage of Smart Guides. Let's go ahead and grab our rectangle tool and let's hover over our A and let's drag from the top of our A into the top of the E across the C just like that. That looks pretty good right there. Let's do the same thing from the A over to our E on the bottom. Let's click and drag our rectangles just like that. That looks perfect. Let's go ahead and deselect our shapes and take a look. Now, while those rectangles may not mean a whole lot, what they do is they give us the ability to make each letter shape that much more described. The reason is we can use those rectangles to help describe the C even further without taking away from the E or the A. The reason is because the descriptive parts of the A is the left side and the inside triangle, and for the E, it is the right side, the three forks of the E. So let's get started. Let me show you how to do this. This is a nice little tool. First thing we're going to do is with our selection tool still selected, let's drag across our shapes just like that. Let's go ahead and grab our shape builder tool. Let's go ahead and start cutting our shapes out. The first thing I'm going to do is let's work on the A. Now notice that I'm going to click on our A body and I'm going to drag right in to that rectangular area that we've created just like that. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on the bottom of our A. I'm going to click across here. Let's drag across and grab that last little edge right there. And notice that our A is completely described. Now let's do the same thing with the C. We're going to start from the top here. Let's drag across our C shape. Let's see if I can get that little nugget right there. I have. Let's keep going down. I'm going to release just so you can see that our C is starting to get a little bit more described. Let's keep going with it. That looks good. I'm going to keep doing that on the bottom. I'll click and release across my shape just like that. And let's get this last little wedge right here. That's perfect. Next thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and do the same thing with the E right here. Again, we're going to use those rectangles in combination with our letter shapes to create three distinct shapes. Let's keep going with it. Let's go to the bottom. That looks pretty good. Now let's remember to get the fill of the C so the C can be completely described as well. We'll click, drag from the E into the C, just like that. Now we've got three distinct shapes. Let's go ahead and exit Outlines. And we've got that complete blob right there that we've already created. It doesn't mean anything because we do have three distinct shapes there. Let's grab our selection tool. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape overall. Now we can do a couple things here. We've got our C as a black shape right now. We can change it to white. Or, of course, we've got negative space and we can always remember that. So what we can do is we can select our C. Let's click on it and let's go ahead and delete it. Notice straight away we've got another really cool look on our ACE logo. What can we do next? Well, let's go ahead and group this thing up so it doesn't break apart. Let's grab our selection tool, drag across A, C, and E. Let's group it together. All we need to do is right click on it, select group, or of course, once again, object group or Control G. Let's bring our whole artboard into view. Let's hit Control 0 to do that. And then let's move our shape into the center of our artboard. That's piece cake. All we need to do is use our align tools. Again, I'm using the top bar here. All I need to do is click horizontal align center just like that. I can arrow it down just slightly away from our original logo. There we go. Let's go ahead and deselect our shape. And there you go. We've got two simple plays and two separate plays on the ACE logo. Let's do one more thing just for fun. How do we color it out? Well, it's a piece of cake, actually, and we're going to use our top logo for this. Remember that these are all individual shapes. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and color our A a light blue, and let's make our E a darker blue. This can be kind of fun. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to select our shape. We're going to right-click on it. We'll select Ungroup. We'll deselect our shape. Let's go ahead and click on the A. Let's double-click on our fill color, and let's find a blue that we might like. I think that's decent blue right there. Let's click on the lighter end right there. That looks perfect. Let's click OK. Let's do the same thing to the E, except this time around, we're going to be using a darker shade of the same blue. Let's go ahead and select our E. Let's grab our eyedropper tool. Let's click on the A. And then let's double click on our fill. And then let's take our blue into a darker shade. That looks pretty good right there. Let's go ahead and click OK. Let's go ahead and grab our selection tool. Deselect. Yeah, I like that. Let's go ahead and drag across all of our shapes right there. Let's right click on our shapes again. Let's select group. Let's go ahead and deselect. And there you go. We've created two different logos, two different ways using negative space and simple sans serif letters. With that in mind, we're done. Now go create. Congratulations, you've completed the tutorial. Now it's your turn. See what you can do with your own logo. Add your type, play with the shapes, and see what you've got. Now, with that in mind, if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. Otherwise, throw me a like. I'd really appreciate that. Otherwise, subscribe. I'd appreciate that just a little bit more. We'll see you next time. Peace.